Caleb Hollister stood in the middle of his ranch yard, right hand resting on the worn grip of his Colt 45. Before him, three gunmen sat on horseback, rifles aimed at his chest. Dust swirled between them in the early morning light. The leader, a man with a scar running from his left eye to his jaw, spat tobacco juice onto the dry earth. "Sign the papers, Hollister. Sell your land to Mr. Cobb, or we burn this place to the ground right now." Caleb did not move. His eyes shifted briefly toward the ranch house window. There behind the dusty glass stood Wren, his 7-year-old daughter, her face pale as winter snow, her small hands pressed against the glass. Since her mother died, the girl had not spoken a single word, and now these men threatened to take away the only home she had left. Caleb turned back to the gunman. His voice came out low and steady. "You have 10 seconds to get off my land." The scarred man laughed. "3 guns against one old rancher? You must be joking." 8 seconds. The laughter died. The scarred man raised his rifle. Caleb drew. 2 shots cracked through the morning air. 2 bodies hit the ground before anyone could blink. The third man clutched his shoulder where blood spread dark across his shirt. He wheeled his horse around and galloped away, leaving nothing but dust and fading hoofbeats. Caleb stood alone in the silence. Gun smoke drifted from his Colt like a departing spirit. He knew this was only the beginning. Silas Cobb had more men, many more. And after losing 3 today, he would be gathering reinforcements. The real storm was still coming. 2 weeks earlier, the world had been quieter. Not peaceful, never peaceful on the frontier, but quieter. Dawn broke over Cedar Valley in shades of copper and gold. Caleb drove fence posts into the frozen ground, his breath forming white clouds in the cold air. Sweat soaked through his flannel shirt despite the chill. This was how he survived, working until exhaustion silenced the grief that never stopped whispering. The ranch house stood 200 yards behind him. Smoke curled from the chimney. Inside, Wren sat by the window with her sketchbook, drawing pictures she could not speak about. Wide skies, rolling hills, horses running free, and always a woman with gentle eyes and soft brown hair. Her mother, Eleanor. The fever had taken Eleanor during the bitter winter of '79. 14 days of burning skin and shallow breath. 14 days of Caleb sitting helpless, watching the woman he loved slip away like water through his fingers. When Eleanor died, something in Wren died with her. The girl who once chased butterflies and sang made-up songs simply vanished. In her place stood a silent child who flinched at loud noises and trusted no one. Caleb finished the fence post and looked toward the house, toward that small figure in the window. He knew what Wren needed, the softness of a woman's touch, a mother's gentle voice. But Caleb had buried his capacity for tenderness on that hill beside Eleanor's grave. 12 miles south, where pine forest met open prairie, a woman knelt beside a narrow creek. Morning light caught strands of her raven-black hair as she worked a bone needle through torn deerskin. Kaya had learned to sew before she learned to walk. Skills passed down through generations of Apache women. Skills meant for a world that no longer existed. She paused and studied her reflection in the water. High cheekbones, sun-darkened
You don't need to stay.
I don't want anyone dragged into my troubles.
I've lived in trouble for years. I only choose places worth staying.
skin, eyes that once held the fire of her entire tribe. Now those eyes held only the quiet ache of complete solitude. 5 winters ago, soldiers and hired gunmen swept through her village while she hunted elk in the high mountains. They wanted the land. Gold had been found in nearby streams, and her people stood between prospectors and profit. When Kaya returned, she found only ashes and shallow graves. Since then, she survived on the margins, a hide lodge at the edge of Cedar Ridge, trading herbs to townsfolk who needed her skills but feared her presence, existing in that strange borderland where she belonged to neither world. At the trading post, Kaya set her bundles on the counter. Yarrow, rabbit brush, wild mint. Old Jenkins examined them with nervous fingers, counting coins faster than necessary. While she waited, her attention drifted to the notice board near the door. One paper caught her eye, rough handwriting, simple words. Widowed rancher seeking help with child. Need woman of strength. Someone with heart steady enough for wind, work, and silence. Hollister Ranch, 12 miles north. New beginnings possible. New beginnings. Those words struck deep. She had heard such promises before, from missionaries and government men, with hollow smiles. But this notice felt different. Raw, weary. The words of a man carved empty by loss, reaching across the emptiness. That night, Kaya sat beside her small fire and wrote a letter in broken English. I know land. I know work. I am not afraid of storms or silence. If you need help with child, I can try. I am also looking for new beginning. She folded the letter and pressed it to her heart. Caleb sat at the kitchen table, holding the letter his brother Josiah had brought from town. The younger Hollister stood by the door waiting. I did not write that notice, Caleb said flatly. I know. Josiah stepped forward. I wrote it. That was not your decision. Someone had to decide something. Josiah's voice rose. I visit every week. Every week I find you working yourself toward an early grave while Ren disappears deeper into silence. You need help, brother. I need you to mind your affairs. Eleanor would want you to accept help. That name hit Caleb like a physical blow. He set the letter down and read it again. I am not afraid of storms or silence. No flowery promises. No desperate pleading. Just the voice of someone shaped by hardship who remains standing. He recognized that quality. It matched his own. Caleb took paper and wrote his reply. If you can stand the land, the wind, and the silence, then come. Kaya arrived as the sun descended toward western mountains. She rode a small bay mare, belongings packed in worn saddlebags. Caleb stood on the porch, one hand near his holstered Colt. Behind him, the front door opened slightly. A small face appeared. Gray-blue eyes studied the stranger. Kaya dismounted and faced Caleb. The wind moved between them, carrying sage and distant rain. You're Kaya? I am. Silence stretched. Caleb studied her proud shoulders, the calm in her dark eyes. Nothing soft or fragile about this woman. The frontier had tested her and failed to break her. I did not write that notice, he said. Kaya nodded toward the door where Ren watched. But you answered my letter. Part of you wanted this. Caleb had no response, because she was right. You can stay 1 week. If Ren does not accept you, you leave. Kaya met his gaze steadily. Fair enough. The first days tested Kaya in unexpected ways. Ranch work demanded different rhythms than wilderness survival. She hauled water and spilled half before reaching the house.
If you want, I can learn to bake faster.
You learn quickly. It's just this kitchen is finicky.
Or are you the finicky one?
I'm only used to...
Rope burns split her palms raw. She tried milking the cow and received a kick that sent the pail flying across the barn. She attempted bread. Smoke filled the kitchen so thick that Ren had to open every window. Caleb appeared in the doorway, examined the blackened loaf, and raised one eyebrow. Chickens might eat it. Then he walked back outside. Kaya expected mockery, received none. Caleb simply observed, tested, waited to see whether she would shatter or adapt. She chose to adapt. Each morning she rose earlier, worked harder, learned faster. The rope burns scarred into calluses. The cow tolerated her. The bread emerged brown instead of black. Through it all, Ren watched, never approaching, never speaking, but always nearby, a shadow clutching her drawings. One evening, Kaya found a scrap of paper on the kitchen table, a sketch of a woman with long dark hair standing beside the water well. It was her. Kaya left the drawing untouched, but warmth stirred in her chest. something dormant beginning to wake. Caleb sent Kaya to town for supplies. At the general store, the woman behind the counter was named Margaret Pruitt. Thin lips, cold eyes. I do not serve Indians. Kaya held out money. This is from Mr. Hollister. Margaret snatched the coins and threw them on the floor. Pick them up and leave. Kaya turned and walked out, leaving the coins scattered on wood. Outside, two men waited on horseback. Silas Cobb, thick and weathered with rattlesnake eyes. Dutch McCarty, lean and deadly, 11 notches carved into his pistol grip. Apache girl, Silas said. Tell Hollister I want his land. $5 an acre. If he refuses, he glanced at Dutch. My associate is persuasive. Dutch spat near her feet. 11 ways persuasive. All lead. Kaya looked directly at Silas. I will tell him. He will not sell. That night, Silas came to the ranch himself. Caleb met him in the yard, Winchester ready. Cobb, state your business and leave. I have purchased 6 ranches in this valley. Only yours remains. This land belonged to my grandfather. It will belong to my daughter. It is not for sale. Silas sighed. You are one man against my resources. You have a child to protect. If something happened to you, Caleb raised the rifle. If your men approach my daughter, I will burn your house and shoot everyone who runs out. Silas turned his horse toward darkness. You will regret those words. After he left, Caleb sent a message to Sheriff Morrison in town. Just in case. Insurance against whatever Silas was planning. The storm arrived without warning. Black clouds stampeded over mountains. Wind turned sharp and cold. Lightning split the sky in jagged white. Caleb went outside to secure livestock. Kaya stayed inside, mending by firelight. Rain hammered the roof. Small footsteps. Quick breathing. Wren stood in the doorway, trembling, clutching her drawings. Loud, she whispered, her first word to Kaya. Kaya did not rush forward. She opened her arms toward the hearth. Come, the fire will protect us. Wren hesitated. Thunder shook the windows. She ran forward and pressed against Kaya's side. Kaya wrapped a blanket around the child's thin shoulders. In stories of my people, she said softly, thunder is great riders crossing the sky. Spirit warriors on horses made of cloud. Their hooves shake the heavens. Wren looked up. Are they angry? No. They guide the storm. Keep balance. Protect the world from darkness. And lightning? Their spears, driving back shadows. Wren nestled closer. Her breathing slowed. Her grip loosened. Within minutes, she slept. Kaya rested her cheek against the child's hair. Tenderness she thought dead began stirring. A floorboard creaked. Caleb stood in the doorway, soaked from rain. He had been watching. His weathered face showed nothing, but his eyes told a different story. Gratitude, relief, something deeper he could not yet name. Neither spoke. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, something fragile and precious had begun growing. 4 days later, Josiah rode in hard, blood soaking his shirt sleeve. Silas, he gasped. His men burned my...
Why don't you leave?
Here, I'm seen as someone who works.
I'm not good at saying kind words.
I don't need kind words.
Stable, shot at me. Said you have to sell or they do the same here. Kaya cleaned and wrapped the wound while Josiah gripped Caleb's arm. Brother, there is something else. It can wait. No. Josiah's eyes held fear. Before Eleanor passed, Silas approached her about buying land. She refused. 2 weeks later, she fell sick. Caleb went rigid. What are you saying? You're well. Before Eleanor got sick, I saw one of Silas's men near it. At the time, I thought nothing. Josiah swallowed hard. Now I am not certain it was coincidence. The words hung like poison. Caleb's hands shook, not from fear, from rage so pure it burned cold. He looked toward the hill where Eleanor rested. He had spent years believing she died from natural illness, years of grief without direction. Now he had a target. Stay with Wren, he told Kaya. Do not let her out of your sight. What will you do? Caleb loaded his Winchester, checked his Colt. End this. Kaya stopped him at the door. You cannot fight 10 gunmen alone. This is not your concern. Silas Cobb hired the men who slaughtered my people. They wanted gold on our land. She drew her hunting knife. This is absolutely my concern. Caleb studied the fire in her eyes. It matched his own. Can you shoot? I prefer the bow. Quieter. Then we planned together. Next morning, Wren ran inside, clutching a rifle bullet in a scrap of paper. Your daughter is next. Caleb's vision went red, but Kaya gripped his shoulder. They want you reckless, careless. We defend from here. Make them come to ground, we know. Caleb breathed hard. Every instinct screamed to ride out and kill Silas immediately. But he looked at Wren, at her terrified eyes, at her small hand clutching Kaya's. Tell me your plan. They prepared through the day. Caleb dug rifle positions around the house. Kaya strung wire between fence posts. Josiah, arm bound tight, positioned himself at the back door with a shotgun. Before he left the house, Josiah pulled Caleb aside. I sent word to Sheriff Morrison yesterday, told him everything, about the well, about the threats. If things go badly tonight, there will be witnesses to what Silas has done. Caleb nodded. Good thinking. As darkness fell, Kaya showed Wren where to hide beneath the floorboards. Stay until you hear my voice. Only my voice. Understand? Wren nodded, eyes huge. Kaya knelt to her level. You are brave. The spirit riders watch over you tonight. Wren reached out and touched Kaya's face. Then she crawled into hiding. They came at midnight. 8 riders surrounding the ranch. Torches burning. Caleb watched from the front window, Winchester steady. Kaya crouched on the roof. Invisible. Bow ready. The leader shouted, Hollister, come out peaceful and nobody dies. Caleb's rifle answered. The speaker dropped from his saddle. Chaos erupted. Gunfire lit the night. Bullets splintered wood and shattered glass. Caleb moved between windows, firing and reloading. 2 more fell. On the roof, Kaya loosed arrow after arrow. Silent death from above. 1 gunman crumpled with a shaft through his throat. Another clutched fletching buried in his chest. At the back, Josiah's shotgun roared. Screams followed. But Dutch McCarty was not among the attackers outside. Kaya realized too late. She heard the cellar door crash open below. Heard Wren scream. She dropped through the roof hatch and ran. Dutch held the child by the arm, pistol pressed to her head. Everyone stop, or the girl dies. Caleb burst through the front door. When he saw Dutch holding Wren, color drained from his face. Let her go. This is between us. Dutch grinned. Drop your gun.
It's my turn to stand guard. You go rest.
I can't sleep soundly.
Then close your eyes for a moment. I'll call if anything happens.
Aren't you afraid?
Kick it away. Caleb hesitated. Now, or I paint the walls. The Winchester clattered to the floor. Dutch shoved Wren aside. She stumbled and fell, crawling toward the corner. Just us now, Dutch said. Fair draw, like men. Caleb's hand hovered over his Colt. His shoulder ached where an old war wound never fully healed. Dutch McCarty was fast, famously fast, but some things mattered more than odds. 1, Dutch counted. Caleb flexed his fingers. 2, time slowed. 3, both hands moved. Both guns cleared leather. Caleb fired first. The bullet punched through Dutch's chest. The killer looked down at spreading red with pure surprise. His pistol discharged into the floor. Then he collapsed. Silence. Caleb stood frozen. Then he heard it. Papa. He turned. Wren stood in the corner, tears streaming. Her lips moved again. Papa. He dropped his gun and crossed the room, swept his daughter into his arms, held her so tight she squeaked. I am here, he whispered. I am never letting go. Kaya stood in the doorway watching. Tears ran down her own cheeks. The word she heard Wren speak was the most beautiful sound she had ever known. They found Silas Cobb at his mansion next morning, loading saddlebags for escape. Caleb leveled his Winchester. "Your men are dead or scattered. Just you left." Silas fell to his knees. "Please, I have money. Whatever you want. I want my wife back, my brother unharmed, my daughter's childhood restored." Caleb's finger tightened. "Can you give those?" I, Caleb!" Sheriff Morrison stepped from the shadows, badge gleaming. Behind him stood Josiah and 3 ranchers, whose land Silas had stolen. "Do not do this," the sheriff said. "We received Josiah's message, heard everything. The whole county knows what Cobb has done." Caleb did not lower his rifle. "The law let him operate for years. Because we lacked proof. Now Josiah will testify about the well. These men will testify to threats and violence. Silas Cobb will hang, legal and proper." Caleb's arms trembled. Every fiber wanted to pull the trigger. But he thought of Wren, of the words she had spoken, of healing barely begun. He lowered the rifle. Sheriff Morrison clamped irons on Silas's wrists. "Silas Cobb, you are under arrest for murder, arson, and conspiracy. You will stand trial in Cheyenne." They dragged him away screaming. Caleb stood in the empty yard. Kaya walked up beside him. "It is finished," she said quietly. He shook his head. "No, it is just beginning." 2 weeks later, the ranch found new rhythm. Josiah's arm healed clean. Bullet holes were patched. Burned fence rebuilt. And Wren was talking. Not constantly, not loudly. But words came. Small observations. Simple questions. Each one a miracle. One evening, as sunset painted the sky in fire and gold, Caleb found Kaya by the fence watching Wren chase fireflies. The little girl's laughter drifted like music from another world. He walked up beside her. Neither spoke for a long moment. "Staying?" he finally asked. Kaya turned. "Do you want me to stay?" Caleb reached into his pocket and pulled out a braided leather cord. Simple, rough, imperfect, made by his own calloused hands late at night. "I have no gold ring, no church, no preacher." He held it on his open palm. "But I have this." She looked at the braid, then at him. This weathered, wounded man who had found room in his scarred heart for an Apache woman with nothing but strength and loyalty. She took the leather. Her fingers brushed his palm. "Home needs no name," she said softly. "When a place claims your heart, you simply know." Wren came running, breathless, fireflies blinking in her jar. "Kaya, look!" She stopped between them, saw the leather braid. Hope flickered across her young face. "Are you staying? Forever?" Kaya knelt to eye level, cupped the small face in her hands. "I will stay, for you, for your father, for as long as the spirits allow." Wren threw arms around her neck. The jar fell, releasing tiny lights that drifted upward like earthbound stars. Caleb placed one hand on Kaya's shoulder, the other on his daughter's head. The 3 stood together against the burning western sky. No ceremony, no witnesses except the land itself. But it was enough. Wind swept across Cedar Valley, carrying sage and wildflowers. Thunder rolled beyond the mountains, spirit riders passing, their spears of lightning guarding the world below. On one small ranch carved from wilderness, a family had been forged, not by blood, not by law, but by fire and storm and stubborn refusal to surrender. Caleb looked at the land his grandfather tamed, the land his wife loved, the land his daughter would inherit. "The frontier is not for the weak," he said quietly, "but those who stand firm, the land remembers." Kaya leaned against him, Wren still wrapped in her arms. "The land remembers," she agreed, "and so do we." Stars emerged one by one. In the growing darkness, 3 hearts beat as one. This was home. This was family. This was where the wind burned brightest.
The story leaves a very clear lesson. In the most cruel moments of life, people are not saved by lone strength, but by unwavering determination and timely compassion. The male protagonist is the image of a man who seems tough, but in reality has been hardened by grief, only able to throw himself into work to escape loss. He thinks that simply keeping the land, the house, and the gun is enough to protect his child. But the truth is, a child needs not only physical safety, but also emotional healing. The female protagonist appears as a missing piece in that home, not to replace the deceased, but to rekindle the warmth that has faded. She carries the resilience of someone who has lost everything, yet still chooses to believe in a new beginning. The second lesson is that courage is not always found in confrontation, but also in restraint. The male protagonist could have chosen immediate revenge, but he learns to stop to protect his daughter's future, choosing the right path instead of satisfying his anger. The story also reminds us that family is not just made of blood or rituals, but built on companionship through storms. When someone is willing to stand by you in danger, when a child dares to speak after a long period of silence, when two strangers protect a home as they protect their own hearts. And finally, the land in the story is not just property, but memories, honor, the burial place of the deceased, and the place that nurtures the living. When we stand firm against the storm with kindness and resilience, life may not return what we have lost, but it will give us something else precious, the opportunity to start again, to love again, and to transform sorrow into a true home.